filming while under quarantine, we're going to show you different clips from classic anime TV series over the years and find out your thoughts on them and how you think they compare to modern anime TV series. How does that sound?
Oh, okay, okay. That sounds okay because I watch anime naman. So I think I'll be able to give my opinion.
So since this React series revolves around Generation Z, we decided to define classic anime series as being those which first aired before 1995.
That sounds exciting because I've watched a bunch of old animes na din naman. Although I'm not sure if they count as before my generation or they just showed up at the exact time my generation did. But yeah, I've seen some old animes and new animes now. I know Astroboy. I like the style actually when it comes to the old anime. It's very aesthetic and retro, and it does remind me of like Tom and Jerry cartoons. I mean, obviously, it's not that advanced yet because you can see that whenever Astroboy talks, his words are with his mouth. I definitely can appreciate like the amount of hard work that goes into creating these animes, especially for like the technology at their time. I think that they were able to make good animation. Okay. Yeah, I find it nostalgic because it reminds me of Tom and Jerry things, and a bunch of other things I watched as I was a kid. I definitely can appreciate how far animating in terms of like cartoon shows has gone. Because now, if you compare this Astro Boy scene I just watched and compare it to new animes like Boku no Hero or JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, you can definitely see just how far we've come and how much better the technology and animating has gone.
So you're correct, that series that you just saw was titled Astro Boy. This anime series focuses on a young robot hero named Atom who defends Japan from all sorts of sinister threats with the help of his adoptive father, Professor Ochanomizu, and all his other robot companions.
Uh, it definitely sounds what do you call that? It fit for its time because around this time, about people were thinking about what would the future be like. So I think that the creators of the show would think that this would be happening in the future, which is uh, definitely sometime further in the future because as of today, we still don't have a real life Astro Boy. Oh, so there's colors now. Okay. Oh, I don't know this anime. That's for sure. I like the way that uh the anime is colored now. So it shows that like this is sometime after Astro Boy probably. The sound effects are pretty stock. Is that stock the right word? Or like this is the things that we usually hear in those old cartoons. I mean, I think they still continue this type of thing in current animes where it's just moving frames, but nothing's really animated, so it's just still images, but people are moving, not moving. I mean, yeah, the sound effects of the punches, I think they're still the same. That's why I said the stock sound. Oh, that tears effect was pretty good though. I like that. Oh, and the animation still not as smooth because I'm not sure how they did it back then, but it's probably still frames per second, right? So, and I think it's still rather slow, but it's definitely improved from uh, Astro Boy. Oh, I like this part. I like how the pencils look rough and all. So I think it was a big step up from Astro Boy, seeing as Astro Boy was all black and white and the frames moved really slow. And now here you can see a bit of improvement when in terms of frame rate.
Now that series that you just saw was called Ashita no Joe. Ashita no Joe was a series focused on the life of a troubled orphan named Joe Yabuki and his journey to becoming a great pro boxer. In this anime, Joe must face countless obstacles such as corrupt officials, powerful and skilled opponents, and his own personal demons while rising to become a world champion.
Sounds like there was some good character development there. Okay, so I think just like also from a while ago, the animation's smoother. Especially the first thing I noticed was how the character talks. And it seems like their backgrounds have gotten more detailed because he's in the city. Oh, yeah, I like this part. The sky looks uh looks like it's been animated really good. I think the sounds too have improved somewhat. I like the cape flowing, it's pretty good. Although the colors still seem pretty flat. Yeah, I think the hair flowing in the cape flowing is pretty good because in the last anime, it's not like their hair moved a lot. So I think it's hard to animate the cape and his hair flowing. Overall, I think only a few minor improvements from the last anime we watched. I think the colors are still rather um, flat, and the animation is a bit smoother because, like I said, with the cape flowing in the hair. But overall, I don't see any other major improvements. But I think it's still a good development from the last anime.
So that series which you just saw was called Space Pirate Captain Harlock. So Space Pirate Captain Harlock was a series set in the far distant future, which centered on a rebellious space pirate named Captain Harlock who leads a brigade on his starship called the Arcadia in a series of battles against their alien oppressors.
That sounds very futuristic, like what I said a while ago with Astroboy. It seems like the developers are trying to think ahead, like what would be happening in this future, and like they tried to turn pirates into something that's feature-like, which I think looks good and works well. We're still continuing with the futuristic theme. I like the animation with the lasers and the explosions too. Those look pretty smooth. Okay, so I think the animation, while still no major improvements, is somewhat better. I feel like as the years progress, they start to look better and better. It definitely reminds me of Gundam or something close to Transformers because the ship transformed a while ago. And like actually, it also reminds me a little bit of Star Wars because the space fighter jets and everything. And but yeah, I am definitely getting a Gundam vibe from it. Oh, it actually reminds me of Evangelion, Nemesis, because of the whole robot things. Japan is definitely into like those uh, big robots and mechs and stuff. Because um, I think this one uh, would have been harder to make because when they're making robots, it's all straight lines and all that. It has to be very geometric, and meanwhile in the other animes they were more of very fluid because it's just people, it's curves and stuff. But meanwhile, if you're trying to draw spaceships and robots, it has to be very geometric. So I think the process of making this anime was a bit harder, or maybe they were able to develop more tools in animating like the digital rulers and all that.
So that clip that you just saw was from a series called the Super Dimension Fortress Macross.
That sounds very anime.
So the Super Dimension Fortress Macross focuses on the intergalactic war between humanity and the race of aliens called the Zentradi. In this series, a special crew of pilots and soldiers chosen by the UN specie must grapple with the struggles of war, grief, and personal drama while trying to make it back home to Earth.
It definitely sounds like uh, it would be in the same universe as Star Wars, as intergalactic wars and all that. Oh, this looks good though. I like the smoke effect. Oh, and the shooting too. Definitely still in the theme of like giant robots and everything. I like this HUD thing that they're giving us. It looks very futuristic. Oh, actually, I bet is this the theme that's playing right now? It's probably the anime's intro. It actually reminds me of the other one because there were also pilots in the bigger robots. But I like how this one is just more of like spacesuits instead of like actual gigantic robots. Oh, I did not see that coming. Oh, he's dead. Oh, okay. First time I've seen blood in this. Yeah. Guy is definitely dead. I like how the blood was animated though. Because, I mean, it may be a bit flat, but like it was still transparent enough that like, so the blood was red, but we can still see the floor, which I think was probably the closest they can do to getting real blood at that time.
So that series that you just saw was called Bubblegum Crisis.
That does not sound like it would be the title of that. Okay.
So Bubblegum Crisis was a series which centered on an all-female group of futuristic soldiers whose main task is to defeat the forces of a corrupt mega corporation called the Genome amidst internal struggles within their own unit.
So an all-female group is definitely a good thing because I always like those animes where it's sort of the female that's the lead character. I think it brings in some form of empowerment and all that. Yeah, I think this does look a little bit familiar, but I think I probably still won't know it. Ah, here we go. With the anime thing we all know, where like people have these really freaky hairstyles. I definitely think the animation has gotten better and smoother, and we're getting closer to like the new generation of anime type of anime things. I like the character designs. They're definitely very anime. Same with the hairstyles. They're very anime to the point where like it really stands out, and you wouldn't see a normal person today wearing that type of hairstyle. I also like the colors in this one, the reflective ones, and how this one just went dark. I think it's a very good play on colors. Um, so it does definitely remind me of some of the current or some of the newer generation anime, the fight scenes, and how the special effects and everything. It reminds me of a little bit of Boku no Hero, because the fight scenes are exaggerated and like you can really see the the powers of the anime characters.
So you just watched the clip from a series titled Yu Yu Hakusho. So Yu Yu Hakusho is a series about a teenage delinquent who returns from the dead after being killed in an attempt to save a child's life and is tasked to hunt down various demons and other psychic creatures in order to protect the human race.
Oh, wow, that's definitely exciting. So he was killed and then he got brought back to life. Ah, that sounds very dramatic. The demons thing reminds me of some other fantasy animes because a bunch of animes now also still go around the concept of fighting demons and all that. So I think it's a good thing that that stuck around.
So how would you describe those classic anime series that you just watched?
Yeah, in the old ones, I think that they aged pretty well to the extent that like if anyone tries to watch it today, I think they'll still appreciate it, even though in the animation, I mean, even though it's very different from our anime today, I think some people or some people of our generation would still be able to appreciate this type of anime.
So anime series have been around since at least the early 1960s and have spanned a wide range of genres in different topics. How would you compare classic anime series with modern day anime series?
Uh, in terms of like genre, I think they're not that far apart because we still have those type of anime today that are really futuristic, and then we also have that anime that's very fantasy, and some that are sort of down to earth, like the boxing thing. I think really the only major difference would be within the animation, because I know some anime also use like the 3D animation thing, which is really useful so that they no longer have to draw a character frame per frame and that they only have to move the model. Meanwhile, in in those 90s or earlier animes, they still have to draw the character frame per frame, which I think takes a lot of effort. And I'm not saying that the 3D models of the anime characters in the newer animes are easy. I'm just saying that it definitely lessens the workload of the animators. In terms of the art style, I think that's definitely something that's changed, especially in terms of the colors. So let's take Astroboy. Of course, it's black and white. And then you take anime now, which is all colored, and they're actually really good colors, like Kimi no Nawa. When the meteor comes falling down from Earth, you can see that there's like a wide array of colors. So in terms of colors, I think it's better.
Now, while anime series have only recently gained popularity in Western countries, they've always been quite popular here in the Philippines. Why do you think a lot of Filipinos love to watch anime?
I mean, personally for me, I like to watch anime because of the excitement that watching these types of animes brings, especially when you get attached to the characters. I think that's a really important thing. These characters are relatable. These characters are fun to see and all that. And like these characters are just the type of people that you'd normally root for, and that's why you keep coming back to watch the anime, because you keep wanting to see that character grow and develop throughout the series.
So what are your favorite anime series, and what genre of anime series do you personally prefer?
Personally, the genre I prefer is romance anime. I probably doesn't look like it, but I mostly watch romance animes. Some of my favorite animes include Your Lie in April, Clannad, Kimi no Nawa, Kono Katachi. I'm sorry if I'm like butchering these Japanese names. If it's not romance anime, I also love JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I think it's really good. I just finished Golden Wind recently. I think a lot of people already like romance animes because usually my friends, I know I have a bunch of my friends that are also into romance anime instead of the action ones, because usually when it comes to like the action ones, some of my friends complain that they don't like bloody anime and all that. Romance anime already has like a pretty large fan base and all that, and you can watch romance in any type of show really, not just anime.
So most people think of anime series today as just light-hearted escapism. But do you think anime series can also be used as a medium to discuss relevant issues in society?
Yeah, I think it can, because in Kawaii no Katachi, the girl is deaf, and then she starts getting bullied. So I think that's like a good way to discuss people who are being bullied and how to effectively fight bullying. And another thing is Your Lie in April. I think this also deals with PTSD. So I think that it can be a really effective medium to people who are like going through the same thing that these characters are going through, and that they can empathize with these characters and also start to develop themselves.
Now, notwithstanding the popularity of anime series, a lot of people, most especially parental groups, have described them as being too provocative, childish, and violent. What are your thoughts on these comments, and do you think such criticism is fair?
Well, I think that it definitely depends on the way that the parents teach their children. If the parent starts complaining about that the anime is too violent and too bloody, and that the child might start to copy what's happening in the shows, then why doesn't the parent just teach the child the right thing to do? I think it's unfair for parents to be making this type of judgment, because if they don't want their children to take after these anime characters that they think are bad influences, then why don't the parents just step up and be the role models for their children?
So, are there any positive values that can be found in anime series? And if so, can you describe them?
Well, one thing I know for sure is definitely one would be humility. Because, like I said a while ago, at one point we all think that we're strong, independent, but over time, so we should learn how to be humble and not be arrogant. And another thing is probably kindness, because usually in some animes, the main character starts out as really arrogant and mean, but over time, due to the hardships they meet, they become kinder to the people that they meet. Oh, and another thing is probably empathy, because going back to what I said earlier about feeling strong and independent, and then start to learn that we're not as strong as we think we are. We're put in the shoes of people who live like that on a daily basis. Those people who are not so strong and independent. And then we start to know how they feel, and therefore we start to be nicer and more generous to them.
Last question, would you say that you prefer classic anime series or modern day anime series?
For me, I definitely prefer the modern day anime, mostly just because they look better in terms of animation and colors. Because the technology we have now to make anime is so much better than what they had back then, and therefore, like, we can have better looking anime. So I guess in terms of look, I would prefer modern day anime, but when it comes to storytelling, it would probably be a draw, because I think that the type of technology we have has nothing to do with how you tell the character stories. Anime is really good when it comes to narrative and storytelling. The way that the writers make the flow of the story is really good, and there are some episodes in the series where it really is just heartwarming, because it's not like every episode is all about fighting and punching. Some people shame anime because they say that it's just cartoon and it's for kids, but in reality it's not always like that. Anime is something for everyone, because there's a lot of anime series out there, and I'm pretty sure that if these people give it a try, they would definitely they would probably also get into the whole anime thing, because there's an anime out there for everyone.